Fact number 20. Joseph believes the Egyptian scrolls he purchased contained the writings of Abraham and another the writings of Joseph of Egypt. Later, they turned out to be rather conventional funerary texts placed with mummified bodies. The writings of Joseph of Egypt are never written about. In July, a poster advertising Egyptian antiquities appeared in town. It told of the discovery of hundreds of mummies in an Egyptian tomb. Some of the mummies, as well as several ancient papyrus scrolls, had been exhibited throughout the United States, attracting large crowds of spectators. Michael Chandler, the man showcasing the artifacts, had heard of Joseph and come to Kirtland to see if he wanted to purchase them. Joseph examined the mummies, but he was more interested in the scrolls. They were covered with strange writing and curious images of people, boats, birds, and snakes. Chandler permitted the prophet to take the scrolls home and study them overnight. Joseph knew Egypt played an important role in the lives of several prophets in the Bible. He also knew Nephi, Mormon, and other writers of the Book of Mormon had recorded their words in what Moroni called Reformed Egyptian. As he examined the writings on the scrolls, he discerned that they contained vital teachings from the Old Testament patriarch Abraham. Meeting with Chandler the next day, Joseph asked how much he wanted for the scrolls. Chandler said he would only sell the scrolls and mummies together for $2,400. The price was far more than Joseph could afford. The saints were still struggling to finish the temple with limited funds, and few people in Kirtland had money to loan him. Yet, Joseph believed the scrolls were worth the price, and he and others quickly raised enough money to buy the artifacts. Excitement rippled through the church as Joseph and his scribes began trying to make sense of the ancient symbols, confident the Lord would soon reveal more of their message to the saints. We learn more about this in great detail from the footnotes in the Joseph Smith papers. Purchase of the Egyptian mummies. Soon after this, some of the saints at Kirtland purchased the mummies and papyrus, a description of which will appear hereafter, and I, with William W. Phelps and Oliver Cowdery as scribes, commenced translating of some of the characters. The translation of some of the characters, or hieroglyphics, and much to our joy found that one of the rolls contained the writings of Abraham, another the writings of Joseph of Egypt, a more full account of which will appear in their place as I proceed to examine or unfold them. Truly can we say the Lord is beginning to reveal the abundance of peace and truth. When Joseph was not poring over the scrolls, he put them and the mummies on display for visitors. Emma took a keen interest in the artifacts and listened carefully as Joseph explained his understanding of the writings of Abraham. When curious people asked to see the mummies, she often exhibited them herself, sharing what Joseph had taught her. As we learn from some of the footnotes, of all the men working on the papyri, only Joseph produced a coherent text. What was going on as he translated? For many years, Mormons assumed that he sat down with the scrolls, looked at each Egyptian word, and by inspiration understood its meaning in English. He must have been reading from a text, so Mormons thought, much as a conventional translator would do, except the words came by revelation rather than out of his own learning. In 1967, that view of translation suffered a blow when 11 scraps of the Abraham papyri, long since lost and believed to have been burned, were discovered in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City and given to the Latter-day Saint leaders in Salt Lake City. Color pictures were soon printed and scholars went to work. The texts were thought to be the Abraham papyri because Joseph had published facsimiles from the papyri with his translation, and the same pictures appeared on the fragments. Moreover, some of the characters from the Egyptian grammar appeared on the fragments. The translation of these texts by expert Egyptologists would finally prove or disprove Joseph's claim to miraculous translating powers. Some Mormons were crushed when the fragments turned out to be rather conventional funerary texts placed with mummified bodies. In this case, Hor to assure continuing life as an immortal god, according to the Egyptologists. Nothing on the fragments resembled Joseph's account of Abraham. Lastly, there was never again mentioned the scroll of Joseph of Egypt. One can't only wonder what happened to such a priceless artifact. No other statement is ever made about the scroll.